What began as a normal day for the family of former little people, big world stars Jacob Roloff and Isabel Roloff quickly turned into one of the most terrifying moments any parent can face. Imagine watching your young child suddenly struggle to breathe, seeing a simple cough turn into something far more serious, and realizing that what seemed like a small illness could actually be a dangerous virus spreading through their tiny body. That is exactly the frightening reality Jacob and Isabel recently experienced with their 4-year-old son, Mateo Roloff. According to the couple, Mateo was diagnosed with Respiratory Syncytial Virus, a respiratory illness that often begins with mild symptoms but can quickly become serious, especially for young children. What started as a normal day soon spiraled into a terrifying health scare that left the entire family shaken and deeply worried about their little boy. In this video, we're going to take a closer look at everything that happened, from the first symptoms Mateo experienced to the terrifying moment Jacob and Isabel realized something was seriously wrong. We'll also talk about how the family handled the sudden medical emergency, the emotional impact the situation had on them, and the latest updates about Mateo's recovery. Because sometimes, it only takes a few hours for a child's health to change in ways no parent ever expects. And for Jacob and Isabel, this experience became a powerful reminder of just how fragile and precious those moments with their son truly are. For nearly 2 decades, viewers around the world have watched the lives of the Roloff family unfold on the long-running reality series Little People, Big World. The show introduced audiences to a unique and heartfelt family dynamic centered around Matt Roloff and Amy Roloff as they raised their 4 children while managing life on their beloved farm in Oregon. Over the years, fans witnessed everything from childhood milestones and family celebrations to difficult moments and life-changing decisions. Among the children viewers watched grow up on screen was Jacob Roloff, the youngest member of the Roloff siblings. As a child, Jacob often appeared alongside his brothers and sister, giving audiences a glimpse into everyday life on the family's famous farm. Fans saw him experience school, family adventures, and the ups and downs that naturally come with growing up. Because the show aired for so many years, many viewers feel as though they watched Jacob grow up almost like a member of their own extended family. However, as Jacob got older, his relationship with reality television began to change. Eventually, he made the decision to step away from Little People, Big World, and pursue a more private path in life. Rather than continuing to share every aspect of his personal journey on camera, Jacob chose to focus on his own interests, creative work, and personal growth away from the spotlight. While that decision surprised some longtime viewers, many respected his choice to create a life that felt more authentic and comfortable for him. Over time, Jacob built a life that looked very different from the one fans once saw on television. He married Isabel Roloff, and together the couple began sharing parts of their life with followers through social media and occasional updates online. While they no longer appear regularly on reality TV, fans who once watched the Roloff family on screen still keep up with Jacob and Isabel through the glimpses they choose to share. In recent years, much of those updates have centered on the couple's journey into parenthood. Becoming parents marked a new and deeply meaningful chapter in their lives. Jacob and Isabel welcomed their son, Mateo, and since then, the couple has occasionally posted heartfelt reflections about raising a young child, navigating the joys and challenges of family life, and learning what it truly means to be parents. Through photos, messages, and small personal updates, they've allowed fans to witness moments that feel honest and deeply human, simple family experiences, parenting milestones, and the emotional growth that comes with raising a child. Many followers appreciate that these glimpses feel genuine rather than overly polished, giving a more personal look into their lives. Their young son Mateo has quickly become the center of their world. Like many parents, Jacob and Isabel often express how becoming parents has completely reshaped their perspective on life. The little moments, watching their child learn new things, seeing his personality grow, and celebrating everyday milestones, have become some of the most meaningful parts of their journey together as a family. For fans who have followed the Roloff family since the early days of Little People, Big World, seeing Jacob build a quiet and loving family life has been both heartwarming and inspiring. Even though he stepped away from television, many viewers still feel connected to his story and continue to support him and his family from afar. But recently, that peaceful family life was interrupted by a frightening moment, one that no parent ever wants to face. In a recent update shared with followers, Jacob and Isabel revealed that their young son Mateo suddenly became very sick, leading to a deeply stressful and emotional experience for the entire family. What began as concerning symptoms quickly turned into a health scare that left the couple feeling worried, helpless, and terrified. And as they would soon discover, Mateo had been diagnosed with a respiratory illness that can be especially concerning for young children, turning an ordinary moment in their lives into one of the most frightening experiences they've faced as parents. What began as a completely ordinary day for Jacob Roloff and Isabel Roloff quickly turned into something they never expected. Like many parents, they had experienced the occasional sniffle or cough with their child before. Kids get sick. It's part of growing up. Usually, those small illnesses pass within a few days, leaving nothing more than a memory and maybe a few sleepless nights. But this time, something felt different. It started subtly with their young son, Mateo Roloff, who seemed a little more tired than usual. At first, it didn't raise immediate alarm. Children sometimes have off days, especially during cold and flu season. Mateo reportedly began showing small symptoms that many parents would recognize instantly: a mild cough, a stuffy nose, and a noticeable drop in his energy. Initially, Jacob and Isabel treated it like any normal childhood cold. They kept a close eye on him, making sure he stayed hydrated and comfortable. At that stage, the symptoms didn't seem particularly unusual. A cough here, a little congestion there, these are the kinds of things families deal with all the time. Many parents assume it's just a seasonal bug that will pass after some rest. But as the hours went by, Jacob and Isabel began noticing subtle changes that slowly shifted their sense of calm into concern. Mateo wasn't just coughing anymore. His breathing began to sound heavier and more strained. The congestion seemed to worsen rather than improve, and his usual playful energy was fading. Instead of running around or playing with toys, he appeared more lethargic, wanting to lie down and rest. For parents, those small behavioral changes can be incredibly alarming. They know their child better than anyone, and when something feels off, that instinct can be hard to ignore. Jacob and Isabel started watching Mateo more closely, paying attention to every cough and every breath. The house that normally felt calm and routine began filling with quiet tension. Each passing hour brought new worry. Was this just a bad cold, or was something more serious happening? At first, they tried to reassure themselves. After all, children get sick frequently, and most illnesses resolve on their own. But the longer they observed Mateo's condition, the harder it became to dismiss the possibility that this might be something more serious. The cough seemed deeper, his breathing sounded different, and the fatigue, something that can be especially concerning in young children, was becoming more noticeable. Parents often reach a moment during an illness when uncertainty turns into urgency. For Jacob and Isabel, that moment slowly crept closer as they realized Mateo's symptoms weren't improving the way they expected. Instead of bouncing back like he normally would, he seemed to be struggling more. The emotional weight of that realization can be overwhelming for any parent. Suddenly, the question changes from, "Is this just a cold?" to, "Do we need medical help right now?" Jacob and Isabel began discussing what to do next, carefully weighing their options. Should they continue monitoring him at home, or was it time to call a doctor or seek medical attention? Every parent hopes they'll never face a situation where they feel unsure about their child's health. But in that moment, Jacob and Isabel found themselves standing at exactly that crossroads. The worry in the room was growing stronger, and the thought that this illness could be something more serious than a typical cold was becoming harder to ignore. And as Mateo's symptoms continued, Jacob and Isabel realized they might soon need to make a decision that no parent ever wants to rush into, seeking medical help to find out what was really happening to their son. Section 2. The terrifying diagnosis 12-00-20-00. As the hours passed, it became clear that Mateo's condition wasn't improving the way a normal cold might. What had started as mild symptoms began to feel more serious. The coughing grew harsher, his breathing sounded more strained, and his energy level continued to drop. For parents, those subtle changes can trigger a growing sense of unease. And for Jacob and Isabel Roloff, that uneasy feeling soon turned into genuine concern. Like many parents would, the couple carefully monitored their son at home at first. They tried to keep him comfortable, making sure he rested and stayed hydrated. But as Mateo's symptoms continued to worsen, they realized it was time to seek professional medical advice. The moment when a parent decides to call a doctor or head to a clinic is often filled with uncertainty, hoping it's nothing serious while fearing it might be. Jacob and Isabel eventually brought Mateo in for a medical evaluation so doctors could determine exactly what was going on. During the examination, healthcare professionals carefully listened to his breathing, checked his oxygen levels, and reviewed the symptoms he had been experiencing. Tests were performed to rule out different respiratory infections, and before long, the doctors were able to give the family an answer. Mateo had tested positive for Respiratory Syncytial Virus, more commonly known as RSV. For many parents, hearing those 3 letters can instantly raise alarm bells. While RSV is actually a very common virus, especially among young children, it can sometimes lead to serious breathing complications. In most older children and adults, the virus often behaves like a typical cold, causing symptoms such as coughing, congestion, fever, and fatigue. But for babies and young children, RSV can be much more concerning. The virus primarily affects the lungs and breathing passages. It can cause inflammation in the small airways, making it harder for a child to breathe comfortably. In some cases, RSV can lead to conditions such as bronchiolitis or pneumonia, which may require close medical monitoring. Because children's airways are much smaller than adults, even a small amount of swelling can make breathing significantly more difficult. That reality is exactly why doctors often take RSV seriously in young patients. For Jacob and Isabel, hearing the diagnosis was a frightening moment. In an instant, what had seemed like an ordinary illness became something far more worrisome. Suddenly, every cough, every breath, and every change in Mateo's behavior carried new weight. Isabel later opened up about the experience, describing the entire situation as terrifying. And for any parent, that feeling is easy to understand. Watching your child struggle with an illness, especially one that affects their ability to breathe comfortably, can be incredibly stressful. Parents often try to stay calm in moments like these, focusing on what needs to be done to help their child recover. But behind that calm exterior is often a whirlwind of emotions: fear, worry, helplessness, and the desperate hope that everything will be okay. Jacob and Isabel reportedly did their best to stay strong for Mateo, listening carefully to the doctors and following their guidance. Still, the diagnosis brought an undeniable wave of anxiety. RSV is something many families hear about every year, but when it affects your own child, the experience suddenly becomes deeply personal. The couple now faced a tense waiting period, hoping that Mateo's symptoms would remain manageable and that his body would be able to fight off the virus without further complications. For the Roloff family, the moment of diagnosis marked the beginning of an emotional chapter that no parent ever wants to experience: the frightening uncertainty of watching their child battle a serious illness. Section 3. Understanding RSV and why it's serious. When doctors confirmed that Mateo had respiratory syncytial virus, it immediately raised alarm bells for Jacob and Isabel. Many parents may have heard of RSV before, but not everyone fully understands how serious it can become, especially for young children. RSV is a very common virus that affects the respiratory system, which includes the lungs and the airways that help us breathe. In fact, most children will be infected with RSV at least once before they turn 2 years old. For many kids, the symptoms may look similar to a typical cold, things like a runny nose, mild cough, sneezing, or a low fever. Because of that, some parents might not realize at first that their child has something more serious than an ordinary seasonal illness. But RSV is different from a simple cold in one very important way. While it may begin with mild symptoms, the virus can move deeper into the lungs and cause inflammation in the small airways. When this happens, breathing can become much more difficult. In more severe cases, RSV can lead to conditions such as bronchiolitis or even pneumonia, both of which can make it extremely hard for a child to breathe normally. The virus spreads very easily from person to person. Just like many other respiratory illnesses, RSV can travel through droplets in the air when someone coughs or sneezes. It can also live on surfaces for hours, meaning children can pick it up by touching toys, tables, or other objects that have been contaminated. Because young kids often share toys. The moment parents realize that their child is truly sick is something that can shake them to their core. For Jacob Roloff and Isabel Roloff, the experience quickly became one of the most emotional and frightening moments they had faced as parents. Watching their young son struggle with an illness they could not immediately control brought a wave of fear, stress, and helplessness that many parents know all too well. When their 4-year-old son Mateo was diagnosed with respiratory syncytial virus, the couple's world seemed to slow down. What had started as symptoms that resembled a common cold suddenly became something much more serious. As Mateo's breathing became more difficult and his symptoms worsened, the situation forced Jacob and Isabel into a state of deep concern. For any parent, seeing a child in discomfort can be incredibly distressing. But respiratory illnesses in young children can feel especially frightening because breathing is such a vital and visible part of a child's well-being. Every cough, every labored breath, and every restless moment can cause parents to worry about what might happen next. Jacob and Isabel later opened up about just how emotional the experience was for them. They described the situation as deeply unsettling, explaining that when your child is sick, it is impossible not to imagine the worst. Even when doctors reassure families that many children recover from RSV with proper care, the uncertainty during the illness can still feel overwhelming. Throughout the ordeal, the couple focused entirely on making sure Mateo was safe and comfortable. Their attention shifted completely toward monitoring his symptoms, following medical guidance, and staying close to him as he recovered. Moments like these often remind parents how fragile childhood health can be and how quickly life can change when illness strikes. Despite the fear they were experiencing privately, Jacob and Isabel also chose to share parts of their journey with their followers online. Over the years, fans who once watched Jacob grow up on the long-running reality series Little People, Big World have continued to follow his life as he built a family of his own. Because of that connection, many supporters felt personally invested in what the Roloff family was going through. When the couple shared updates about Mateo's condition, the response from fans was immediate and heartfelt. Messages of encouragement, prayers, and supportive comments began pouring in from people around the world. Many followers expressed sympathy for the couple, acknowledging how terrifying it can be when a young child becomes seriously ill. What made the response even more powerful was the number of parents who shared their own experiences. Some wrote about the first time their own children were diagnosed with RSV or other respiratory illnesses. Others spoke about sleepless nights spent watching over sick children, constantly checking to make sure their breathing was steady and their fever was under control. These shared stories created a powerful sense of community among viewers. Parents who had never met Jacob and Isabel personally still felt a deep sense of empathy for them. After all, the fear of a child being sick is something that crosses cultures, countries, and backgrounds. It is a universal experience that connects families everywhere. For Jacob and Isabel, those messages of support became an important source of comfort during an otherwise stressful time. Knowing that so many people were sending encouragement helped remind them that they were not facing the situation alone. Online communities often become places where families can share both joyful milestones and difficult moments. In situations like this, those communities can transform into support systems that offer reassurance and understanding when it is needed most. The couple's willingness to be open about their fears also resonated with many viewers. Social media often shows the happiest moments of family life, celebrations, holidays, and achievements. But moments of vulnerability, like caring for a sick child, reveal the reality behind those joyful snapshots. By sharing their experience honestly, Jacob and Isabel helped raise awareness about RSV and the emotional toll that childhood illness can have on families. Their story reminded many parents that it is okay to feel scared in moments like these, and that seeking support from others can make those difficult days feel a little less isolating. For the Roloff family, this chapter became more than just a health scare. It became a reminder of how deeply parents love their children and how strong the bond between families and supportive communities can be during challenging times. Mateo's health scare was a terrifying experience for the entire family, but thankfully, the story did not end in tragedy. After days filled with anxiety, sleepless nights, and constant monitoring, there were finally signs that Mateo's condition was beginning to improve. Doctors continued to closely observe him, making sure his breathing stabilized and his body responded well to treatment. Respiratory illnesses can be unpredictable, especially for young children, so the medical team remained cautious. Even small improvements, like steadier breathing, reduced fever, or increased energy, became incredibly meaningful milestones for Jacob and Isabel. For parents, the moment a child begins to show signs of recovery can feel like a wave of relief after an overwhelming storm. What once felt like a terrifying unknown slowly transforms into cautious optimism. Jacob and Isabel reportedly began to notice those hopeful signs as Mateo's body started fighting back against the illness. Gradually, Mateo's breathing became less strained. The coughing that once seemed relentless began to ease. His energy started returning little by little. For a child who had been so sick, these small changes were incredibly encouraging. Parents often describe this phase of recovery as both emotional and exhausting. After days of constant worry, the body and mind finally begin to relax, but the fear of setbacks can still linger. Jacob and Isabel likely found themselves watching Mateo closely, celebrating every small step forward while hoping the worst had truly passed. As updates about Mateo's recovery reached their followers, a wave of support and encouragement continued pouring in. Fans who had been following the story expressed relief and happiness as they heard that Mateo was getting stronger. Messages of love, prayers, and well wishes filled the comments of the couple's posts. This kind of community support can mean a great deal to families going through frightening moments like this. Knowing that thousands of people are thinking about your child and hopping for their recovery can be incredibly comforting during stressful times. Jacob and Isabel later expressed their gratitude for the support they received throughout the ordeal. They acknowledged the kind messages from friends, fans, and fellow parents who understood just how frightening a child's illness can be. Many followers shared their own experiences with similar respiratory illnesses, creating a sense of connection and understanding. Moments like this often remind families how fragile health can be. A normal day can suddenly turn into a medical emergency, leaving parents feeling helpless and afraid. For Jacob and Isabel, the experience may have served as a powerful reminder to cherish every healthy moment with their son. At the same time, situations like these often deepen a family's appreciation for medical professionals. Doctors, nurses, and healthcare workers play a critical role in caring for children when they are most vulnerable. Their expertise and attention can make all the difference in helping a young patient recover. As Mateo continued to improve, the atmosphere in the household likely shifted from fear to gratitude. The silence of worry slowly gave way to relief, laughter, and the comforting sounds of a child returning to normal life. For many parents watching this story unfold, Mateo's recovery served as a reminder of how resilient children can be. Even when faced with serious illnesses, their bodies often have an incredible ability to heal and regain strength with proper care. Jacob and Isabel's openness about the situation also helped raise awareness about respiratory illnesses in children. By sharing their experience, they encouraged other parents to stay alert to symptoms and seek medical advice if something doesn't seem right. While the experience was undoubtedly one of the most stressful moments the couple has faced as parents, it also highlighted the power of love, support, and resilience. And as Mateo continued recovering, the family could finally begin to breathe a little easier, grateful that the frightening chapter was slowly coming to an end. But experiences like this rarely leave families unchanged. In many cases, they bring new perspectives, deeper gratitude, and important lessons about health, parenting, and appreciating life's smallest moments. The frightening experience that Jacob Roloff and Isabel Roloff went through with their young son became more than just a difficult family moment. It also turned into an important reminder for parents everywhere. Situations like this show how quickly a child's health can change and how important it is for parents to pay attention to even the smallest symptoms. What may appear to be a simple cold at first can sometimes develop into something more serious, which is why being observant and responsive can make a significant difference. Many parents know the feeling of uncertainty that comes when a child becomes sick. At the beginning, the symptoms might seem minor, perhaps a cough, congestion, or fatigue. These signs often resemble the early stages of common childhood illnesses. Because children frequently experience colds and mild infections, it can be easy to assume that the illness will pass on its own with time and rest. However, the experience shared by Jacob and Isabel demonstrates that it is important to remain attentive and cautious when symptoms begin to worsen. One of the most powerful lessons from their story is the importance of trusting parental instincts. Parents spend more time with their children than anyone else, which means they often notice subtle changes in behavior, energy levels, or breathing patterns. When something feels unusual or concerning, that instinct can be an important signal that a child may need medical attention. Acting on those instincts, whether it means monitoring symptoms closely or contacting a healthcare professional, can help ensure that children receive care as early as possible. Another key message from their experience is the importance of acting quickly when something doesn't feel right. In many situations, early medical evaluation allows doctors to identify potential issues before they become more serious. Seeking advice from healthcare professionals can provide reassurance for parents while also ensuring that children receive appropriate treatment if needed. While not every illness requires urgent care, it is always better for parents to err on the side of caution when their child's health is involved. The story shared by Jacob and Isabel resonated deeply with many families who have faced similar moments of fear. Parenting often comes with unexpected challenges, and health scares can be among the most stressful experiences a family can endure. When a child struggles with illness, parents naturally feel a sense of helplessness and worry. Watching a child feel unwell can be emotionally overwhelming, and the uncertainty surrounding a diagnosis can make the situation even more difficult. For many viewers and followers who have watched the Roloff family through the years on Little People, Big World, this moment served as a reminder that even public figures face the same parenting fears as everyone else. Despite the family's long history in the public eye, the emotions surrounding their child's illness were something that parents everywhere could understand. The shared experience created a powerful sense of connection between the family and those who have supported them over the years. Stories like this also highlight the importance of staying informed about common childhood illnesses. Understanding how certain illnesses spread, recognizing warning signs, and knowing when to seek help can make parents feel more prepared during stressful situations. Knowledge doesn't eliminate fear entirely, but it can help families respond more confidently when health concerns arise. In addition, many parents find comfort in the support of their communities during difficult times. Whether it comes from family members, friends, or supportive online communities, encouragement from others can provide reassurance during moments of uncertainty. For Jacob and Isabel, the outpouring of kindness and concern from supporters reminded them that they were not facing the situation alone. Ultimately, their experience became a powerful reminder that parenting often involves navigating moments of fear and uncertainty. While no parent wants to face the possibility of a serious illness affecting their child, situations like this demonstrate the importance of attentiveness, knowledge, and quick action. By paying attention to symptoms, trusting instincts, and seeking medical advice when necessary, parents can help protect the health and well-being of their children. As the story continues, it also reinforces a broader message about the resilience of families during challenging times. Difficult experiences can bring families closer together, reminding them of what matters most. For Jacob and Isabel, the health scare surrounding their son served as both a frightening ordeal and a meaningful lesson about the importance of vigilance, care, and gratitude for every step toward recovery. As the story comes to a close, it's clear that this frightening health scare brought an overwhelming wave of fear and uncertainty into the lives of the Roloff family. What began as what seemed like a simple illness quickly turned into a moment that no parent ever wants to face. For Jacob and Isabel, watching their young son struggle with a serious respiratory infection was deeply emotional and incredibly stressful. In situations like this, parents often feel helpless, wishing they could take away the pain or discomfort their child is experiencing. Moments like these remind families just how fragile and precious life truly is. When a child becomes seriously ill, everyday concerns suddenly feel much smaller, and the most important thing becomes the well-being of the people we love. For Jacob and Isabel, this experience served as a powerful reminder to cherish every moment with their son and to never take good health for granted. Even though many fans first came to know the Roloff family through television, experiences like this reveal the very real challenges that exist behind the scenes. Parenting comes with countless moments of joy, but it also includes moments of fear, uncertainty, and worry. When a child is sick, those emotions can feel overwhelming. At the same time, the situation also showed the strength of community. When the family shared updates about Mateo's condition, many supporters and followers responded with messages of encouragement, prayers, and kindness. Those small gestures of support can mean a great deal to families who are going through a difficult moment. Thankfully, the latest updates suggest that Mateo is doing better. While recovery from respiratory illnesses can take time, the improvement in his condition has brought a sense of relief to his parents and loved ones. Moments like these allow families to breathe again after days of worry and sleepless nights. For Jacob and Isabel, the focus now is on healing, spending time together, and moving forward with gratitude. Experiences like this often change a family's perspective, reminding them to slow down, appreciate the present, and hold their loved ones a little closer. Stories like Mateo also serve as a gentle reminder to parents everywhere. Children often catch common illnesses, and most of the time those illnesses pass without serious complications. However, paying attention to symptoms and seeking medical care when something feels wrong can make an important difference. Trusting parental instincts is something many families learn through experiences just like this one. While the Roloff family has lived much of their lives in the public eye, moments like this show that they face the same fears and challenges that families everywhere experience. Illness, uncertainty, and recovery are parts of life that connect all parents, regardless of fame or background. In the end, what matters most is that Mateo is on the path to recovery and surrounded by the love and support of his family. Jacob and Isabel continue to focus on what truly matters: their son's health, their time together, and the gratitude they feel for the support they've received during such a difficult moment. Stories like this remind us that even during frightening times, hope, care, and community can make a powerful difference. And for families who go through moments like these, the experience often strengthens the bond they share and deepens their appreciation for the everyday moments that might otherwise go unnoticed. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.